And welcome back to Washington Commanders Insider. Today we are talking about the breaking news around the Washington Commanders that they are re-signing Bobby Wagner. We're going to be talking about the impact that has on the Washington Commanders. Then we're also going to be talking about trade updates. We're going to be talking about Trey Hendrickson and how that is going to impact the way the Washington Commanders may go about really adding to this football team in the offseason. And lastly, we're going to be going over some rumors around the Washington Commanders and talking about Zach Ertz and what we can expect in a possible reunion of Zach Ertz coming back to the Washington Commanders. And so let's go ahead and start with the most recent news here around Bobby Wagner. And so it looks like that, look, the Commanders are re-signing Bobby Wagner. It looks like that it is going to be a one-year deal worth 9.5 million, 8 million guaranteed. And just looking at the impact of what he did on the field for us, look, he played in 99% of the snaps. You see that he got to his 10th Pro Bowl. He had 132 tackles, 2 sacks, 4 passes defended, and a forced fumble and 2 fumble recoveries in 17 games. And so let's start with just really the impact with Bobby Wagner here. And so I think that there's a lot of stuff that Bobby Wagner does that just will never show up on the stat sheet. I feel like that is where you get just so much more added value in bringing back Bobby Wagner. And really, he is a glue guy to this team. I think that when you go back and you look at Dan Quinn, Adam Peters, and what they were saying there at the NFL Draft Combine, and talking about, look, how they want to have this team competitive. They want to have the character. They want to have the standard. Bobby Wagner meets all of those. And so you know that he's super competitive, absolutely has the character. And then as far as the standard, look, that is where he is going to be huge for us because, look, we have added Deebo Samuel, and I would expect that we're going to add some more stars. I think as much as this team is going to stay intact, there is also going to be, I think, some big changes along the line. I think that we're going to add some more star power here. And you need a guy like Bobby Wagner in your locker room who can really keep everybody, on the same course of action here, because that's what it's all about. You need to have those standards in place. And so I think he's going to be huge as far as a locker room guy for us. And then when you look at his impact on the defense, look, we talk about Jaden Daniels. We talk about the leadership. We talked about just really how he grew, I think, throughout the season. Look, Bobby Wagner is just as important on the defensive side of the ball because, look, he's making all the reads. He's putting everybody in position where they need to go. And it's not, there's sometimes where our defensive coordinator is not able to get the call to him and we have to scramble and just get into a play. And most times, look, Bobby Wagner is correct. And so he is going to be huge for us on that. And then when you look at it just statistically and some of the things that he's done, look, he was 3rd on the team as far as tackles for loss behind Frankie Louvu and then Dante Fowler Jr. And then when you talk about, look, the fumble recoveries, he led us in that. And we were talking about just how important it is to generate turnovers. He was huge for us there, especially in the playoffs against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers when we needed it. And so, look, Bobby Wagner, the Washington Commanders, this was a great start, I think, to free agency, along with bringing back Zane Gonzalez, who we talked about in yesterday's video. So I think that these are 2 impactful players that certainly you can build with and just really help continue to build the standard. So I think that this is great. I love this signing, and I think that this is going to really help the Washington Commanders take off here in this next year with this team. And so next, I wanted to talk about just really the trade updates here. And we were just talking about Trey Hendrickson, and I want to talk about how this is going to be huge, and really how this is going to impact the Washington Commanders as far as getting better, because I definitely think that the Washington Commanders are not done as far as really adding to this football team. And so just looking at, just the recent news here around Trey Hendrickson and what we're hearing. And so it looks like that the Cincinnati Bengals are definitely going to go ahead and they are granting him permission to seek a trade. This is Adam Scheffler. He says that this is a rare step with the Bengals allowing him to do so. But this is what he had to say. Look, it's been an honor and a privilege to represent Cincinnati over the last 4 years. I love this city and this organization. He goes on to say, I appreciate them, but it's time to kind of go and do, what's best for him. And so, look, this is, paraphrasing that at the end, but this is huge. I mean, because this is essentially saying that, look, the Cincinnati Bengals, they are open for business. And I think the Washington Commanders have really stated that, look, they're open for business as far as getting better. Trey Hendrickson certainly does that for you. Look, here is a guy that led the league in sacks last year at 17 and a half. I think he has plenty of juice left in the tank. And he was second, I think, in the Defensive Player of the Year award. And so this is a guy that I think you add him over. You've already got Bobby Wagner. And I think that, look, if it takes a first-round pick to go out and get him, I think you do this, because I think if the Washington Commanders give up this year's first round pick, I think that there's still enough edge talent. There's still enough defensive talent in this draft that you can definitely help your football team. And it doesn't necessarily have to be in round one. I think that, the value that you would get in bringing Trey Hendrickson over, I think it's something that has to get done. And I do expect that Adam Peters would do it. And then talking about this draft capital and why I think it is not going to be a huge issue that the Washington Commanders give up a first round pick if it comes down to that. Look, I think that Adam Peters is showing us, or he has showed us, that he knows what he's doing when it comes down to drafting players. I mean, we've talked about this before. Look, he got Mikey Samuels still. He got Johnny Newton. He's also obviously got Jaden Daniels. And so we know he hit on that. And so, look, I think that, Adam Peters knows exactly what he's doing. I think we have to give up a first round pick to get him. I think that this is going to be fine. And I think the Washington Commanders should absolutely do so. And then next up, another player too, to just throw out there and mention, we talked about this a couple videos back, but DK Metcalf. And so I saw something here, I think it was on sportsillustrated.com. And I guess it was essentially saying that maybe, the price would be high to go out and get DK Metcalf. It was just like reports maybe suggest maybe a first, a third, and then you also have to look at the extension that would come down the line for DK Metcalf. So just a quick update there. And lastly, before we jump out of this and talk about just the rumor mill around the Washington Commanders and who they might sign, I think that it's important to note that Max Crosby just had that huge extension where he signed a 3-year, 106.5 million contract extension. And so because of that, that's certainly going to maybe change the market a little bit here. And so, you have guys like Trey Hendrickson that are going to want, their contracts extended, because I think that this is certainly not going to be a 1-year rental. I think that when you look at this, Max Crosby, he's looking at about 35.5 million average annual. So, we have to think about that as well. But hey, that is exactly why you have the salary cap that you have right now, and the Washington Commanders are in good shape there. And then we have the void years and things like that we can certainly try to make the money work and situation work as well. And so lastly, I wanted to talk about just something that was mentioned here briefly at the NFL Combine, and this was according to Matthew Berry. So Matthew Berry, who writes for NBC Sports, and he was talking about just, I think, some of the top things that he had heard at the NFL Combine, and talking about, just storylines and things like that. And so 25 of the most interesting. And so point 15 on his list was that, the talk here is that the Washington Commanders are going to bring back Zach Ertz. He says likely to bring back Zach Ertz, and he also mentions Dyami Brown. And so I think first and foremost, that's good if the Washington Commanders are going to bring back Zach Ertz. He's saying also too that it's also going to depend a lot on what goes on with Dyami Brown, probably saying that Dyami Brown might actually command some money here from, other teams. And so he's thinking that maybe Dyami Brown could maybe be on the move. And so that's one of the things that was kind of mentioned here because of just the wide receiver market. And then also too, he was talking about just this NFL draft class, and the wide receivers just not as strong as last year's class with Malik Neighbors, Brian Thomas Jr., Marvin Harrison Jr. And Rome Odunze. He was talking about those players and saying that, look, because the draft class is maybe not as strong, then you're probably going to see a bit more of a premium here on Darius Slayton and then also to De'Ami Brown. So kind of paraphrasing what he's saying, in saying that they're going to be maybe in the driver's seat to get some real money here via free agency. And so that is our free agent update. Zach Ertz likely expected back. And then also, too, the price on De'Ami Brown might be a bit too high. And so maybe he might not be back. Who knows what happens here? And so anyway, let me know in the comments here. Do you think that the Washington Commanders should go ahead, make the move, and go get Trey Hendrickson, even if it cost us a first-round pick this year? And don't forget, we also have Jonathan Allen as well. Maybe the Bengals would be interested in taking him over along with a first-round pick, just throwing that scenario out there. And, also, too, with the Bobby Wagner signing, do you think that that was a huge move for the Washington Commanders? Does that put us in the right step forward, I guess you should say, or puts us in a good step forward to get to that Super Bowl that I think that this team certainly can get to and then hopefully win it? Because, look, defense is really what wins championships, because we know offense definitely scores the points. But if you looked at that last Super Bowl, defense was the name of the game. It's the ability to get to the quarterback, to cause pressures, and then turn the football over to allow your offense to go out there and score some points, which we know our offense can. I think it's going to be defense now. We need to pick it up here. And so anyway, let me know in the comments. And as I always say, go Commanders, and I will see you on the next one. All right. Peace.